to another episode of Navigating Careers. And I have with me, calling from our bedroom, my darling,
Coming from a secret location.
okay, coming from a secret location, his secret hideaway, my darling husband of 21 years, Toby Santa Cruz. Welcome to the show, Toby.
Thank you.
So I'm kind of nervous now because I'm on the opposite end. I'm on the other end of this conversation. It's actually Toby who's going to be asking the questions. So this is all not scripted. He is just going to come up with anything he wants to ask me, and we're just going to play it by ear. I hope you guys enjoy.
And
Thanks.
I ask hard-hitting questions.
Wow, hard-hitting questions. Up to you.
This is the first time that I am letting anybody into my secret lair. So, kita nyo naman, may blueprint pa yan. No? May blueprint pa dyan. So, yeah.
Super kulit, right, guys? But anyway, so should I begin with your first question to introduce?
Yeah, so introduce yourself first,
All right. So,
please.
to introduce myself, of course, my name is Kay. I am a life and career coach. I shifted careers when I was 45, and it I really came from a very solid corporate background. I started working a few months after college. I took some time to rest, and then my first job was actually in Shangri-La Plaza for a hotel, and I was with the PR department. I graduated with a course in communication. So I thought, that was going to be my career. It was going to be all marketing, communications, PR. And then I ended up at a financial research job. And then I stayed with them for 21 years. 11 years of that, Toby and I spent in Singapore with my sister Pia. And those are very, very enjoyable days. Eventually, though, I thought, it would be good to come back to the Philippines and share my wealth of experience and knowledge that I've gained. And that is why I do what I do now.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning. What were the factors or decision points that you used to choose the different parts or aspects of your career?
So, I had 5 jobs in my corporate career. This one was in hotel. And really the reason for that was I wasn't a very adventurous person when I was so much younger. I grew up in Pasig. I studied in Pasig, both in elementary, high school, and when I eventually went into college, I was still in the area, and Ed Shang was also still in the area. So really, it was a very practical decision, and
Right.
then I went into my next job thinking that, EDSA Shang was such a very wonderful environment, but it was so predictable. It even if I didn't want to take risks, this was such a very, very calm environment. I felt like I needed to spread my wings and try something else to grow. So
Yes.
I ended up with another job which for me was interesting, and I took it because again, it was something different. So eventually I saw an opening for a family owned business, right? This was a business of my aunt's, and this was in real estate. So again, a little bit different because this was now a combination of marketing and business development. So
Real
I
estate
decided
development. Yeah.
to go into that, and then I ended up at the the most fun job ever, where I am still friends with a lot of people I worked with. This was for a liquor importing company, and I did marketing for them. But the marketing here was a little bit different. My friend and I, Anna, would think of games so that people would drink, so that because
Yeah.
we were selling liquor, right? And we would go to different bars and look at liquor consumption, and well, it was a very very fun time. And I was in my 20s, so you can just imagine, it was like me really taking on an adventure. The funny thing is, when I got into the financial research gig, it wasn't because of any major reasons. The liquor company closed. I was in between jobs. And my college called me up and said there is this guy putting together a company, and you're free to approach them and apply. And since I was between jobs, I wasn't very picky, right? I went for the interview, I got the position, and the rest is history. But the funny thing about this part of the story was that place where I ended up the longest wasn't a very conscious decision that I made. And I attributed it a lot to prayer. It was really, my whole life has been, just lead me, Lord, just lead me where you want me to be, just lead me where I can help the most and affect the best change possible. So, yeah.
I think it's also worth mentioning the conversation that you had with your dad about this. Kasi syempre, you asked him, di ba? You remember? You asked him.
Yeah. And Toby's, I think, alluding to that part where, of course, when you're making a major decision like joining a company, you talk
Yes,
to the people you trust. And at that time, it was really my parents who was there to guide me and to share their insights with me. And in this particular juncture, it was my dad who said, I'm sure you have concerns because, again, as Toby mentioned, it was a very new company. So um, the office was really bare. But then he said, just give it a try, just see what you can learn, and you can always change your mind later on, right? And the thing is, that's what I did. I mean, it was again something new, and I'm always about trying new things. I love trying new things because I know I'm going to learn a lot when I try new things. And even if I'm uncomfortable, I just try to find ways to make it work for me. So
right.
I remember it was August 25, 1997, when I joined that company, and they were in Pasong Tamo. And the rest is history, really.
ID number 002. Oh, three, sorry. Three. Di ba?
Yeah.
Kasi, yeah, you should, I think that's an important, I mean, that played a very important part in your career.
Yeah.
That launched your career in Thomson, which you stayed in
Yeah.
for about 22 years.
Yeah.
And 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 marami kang memories. You gained a lot of friends, you gained a lot of experience, you gained a lot of wisdom,
Yeah.
di ba?
For sure.
And we got to live in Singapore,
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
all because of that one, what do you call it? Leap of faith
Yeah. Yeah.
that you took, di ba?
Yeah.
It's worth mentioning also that it was Ninong Tom who was interviewing you, who's a completely all-around nice guy,
Yeah.
na talagang mapapalagay din naman talaga yung loob mo. Malaking factor din yun, di ba?
Super. So this guy that Toby is mentioning was the country manager back then, and he was responsible for putting together this office. And eventually, when we got married, Attorney Tom was one of our sponsors, was one of our principal sponsors.
Godfathers,
Wedding.
godparent. Yeah,
And we're still in touch with him now.
of course. Nice guy.
Yes.
How did you choose people that worked with you?
Oh,
Because I remember when you were still in the Manila office, your team grew to about 130 people.
yeah. Yeah.
And syempre the team managers would do the initial interviews, but of course the final interview was with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you choose people? I
Yeah.
mean, give your viewers a kumbaga, a tip
Yeah.
or advice on how they can be selected for the jobs that they're going for.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, often, a lot of us fear that our CVs aren't good enough, right?
Ah, yeah.
But
Insecurity talaga diyan, medyo matindi.
yeah,
Yeah.
but one of the things that's super important that was vital in us hiring and making sure that we built a strong team was attitude, right? And I remember,
Agree.
Karina, Michelle, all those ones who worked with me before, Saul. I mean, we built a very strong team. There were hits and misses, of course. There were hits
Of
and misses,
course.
but eventually when we were at our strongest, we were I was so proud of how we worked so well together and we played so well together. We had
Yes.
Christmas parties and summer vacations and all that.
Right.
But I think, yeah, but back to that factor, the X factor was really attitude. We
Yes.
train them.
Agree.
We can train them and we can make sure that they go through the right and necessary, uh, you know, ways to learn what they needed to do in the job. But what was important was their attitude, their willingness to make sacrifices, their openness to ideas and to direction, their ability to communicate well enough so that they can be honest, forthcoming, even candid, but respectful,
Mhm.
right? I think
Right.
some of the things that's very, very important. If you think about it, when you are running a team, it's like taking care of a family.
I agree. Kasi like now in my office, we are interviewing new people, no? We are
Sales,
sort of sales and admin positions also. We have openings.
right?
Tinatanong ako lagi niyan ng mga tao, ng mga friends that I ask for recommendations from.
Yeah,
Anong qualification, anong requirement?
yeah, yeah,
Ang lagi kong sagot diyan, first is attitude, eh.
yeah,
'Di ba, attitude, mapagkakatiwalaan ba, hard worker ba,
yeah,
'di ba?
yeah,
Oh, anong preference mo sa school? Wala akong preference sa school kahit 'di pa nag-aral 'yan.
yeah,
Kahit
yeah,
'di nag-aral, kahit wala. Ay, ang importante sa akin attitude. Okay. Eh, so okay, we covered that part. Pero let's give advice naman to managers who are watching you right now.
hey.
What's the best advice you can give to how to manage difficult people?
Well, I think for me, managing in general is mainly about service. The way I manage people is really through service. And when I say service, this is this has a lot to do with making sure that I am there for them. I
Right,
am walking my talk. I
right,
don't want to be the kind of manager who just sits around and expects things to be done, because I really want to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
right.
So whether it's upward management, downward management, or managing your peers, managing your relationship, I think integrity is so important. And integrity has a lot to do with being the same person whoever you're talking with, right? And so when it comes to managing difficult people, because you want to be service oriented, you want to reach out to them, you want to understand where it's coming from. And as I talk, as I mentioned this, I am seeing the connection, the vivid connection between what I do now as a life coach, as a career coach,
Yes,
with what I used to do when I managed people. Because one of the things that I definitely saw was that people who act out have either very big insecurities or really heavy baggages that have not been sorted out. And sometimes, what it's this need for attention, it's this need for validation, that they're bringing to the workplace, you know?
Yeah.
And there are triggers in the workplace. It has to be sincere. The care,
Right.
concern, the service that you want to give has to be sincere. And
Of
then,
course.
you have friends for life and real friends for life too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Sol, Karina, Michelle, di ba?
Get them into this program one way or another.
Oo. Good people. Talagang you
Yeah.
can say na you were proud to have them as our friends.
Very,
Di
very
ba?
proud. Yeah.
Yeah. Having said that,
Yeah.
okay, managing people, di ba?
Yeah.
I think I should ask you also, uh, how do you determine where the line is
Mm,
between between a professional relationship and a personal friendship, di ba?
I
Yeah.
learned as I went on, right? This
Mm.
management journey, that it has to be verbalized. You have to have an agreement, because when that's the case, it's harder for lines to blur, right?
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, when you talk with your staff, when you talk with your employees, you have to be verbal, in a sense that when you're having a meeting with them, you say, so and so, we're having this conversation, and I need to wear my manager hat. It doesn't even matter what the topic of conversation is. What I have learned is that, because you've built a really good trusting friendship with them, when it comes to serious conversations, they will
Mm-mm.
still respect where you're coming from, because you're also giving them that respect, right?
Of course.
Typically the conversation would go like this, we're here to talk about this little issue that's cropping up, and before it gets any bigger, I need to wear my manager hat, and I
Mm-mm.
need us to come together to look at this and see where we can really fix it. I want to hear your side of the story. Let me share my side of the story, and together let's move this forward. So a lot of it has to come from a combined agreement, but also an understanding that the buck stops with me, that I
Yeah.
need to be responsible for this, right? But
Mm-mm.
I am not going to discount my friendship with you nor my care for you,
Yes.
right? But yeah, it's served me so well, and
Yes.
I think a lot of the managers who reported to me also were able to, make sure that that was the kind of culture that permeated as you went through the whole team.
Right.
That to me is as a really honest and open kind of communication culture in a company,
Right.
in any team.
A big factor of the KPI of anybody
Yeah.
is quality control,
Yeah.
'di
Yeah.
ba? How do you how do you
And
ensure
yeah,
quality work from people?
you have to establish the goal. What kind of quality do you want your team to meet? When
Yes.
you have established that and everybody is on board, you now look at the different quality factors, right? The different
Right.
that affect your quality, whether it's the people, the technology, the whatever it is. You look at those factors and then kind of, see the current output. So this is where you establish your base. Once
Yes.
you have that gap, you can now get together, and this is the fun part for me, and do creative
Mm-mm.
problem solving. Creative problem solving for me has a lot of
Right.
innovation. It has to be a conversation where you're really looking at different angles to this. I think that's why I love it, because again, it's all about it's a creative exercise. and
Yes.
and the best solutions are sometimes really something that's either far from what you're currently doing, or a combination of a lot of different suggestions coming from the team,
Right.
right? And then the next thing, though, is the most difficult part for me, which is putting it together, putting it into practice.
Right.
Because the shift in mindset from what you're used to what you have to do now is very difficult. Why? Because people will tend to do what they're so used to doing already. That becomes a habit almost, right? So what do you do then? What you have to do is keep their eye on the goal. You cannot have them keeping their eye on what they're supposed to do. They have to keep their eye on the goal, shift the mindset, and follow through with the new process,
Mm-mm.
right? It's
Yeah.
easier said than done. And I accept,
Yes.
right? But it can be done. And I've seen it.
Oo.
Remember days when, the New York office would send senior managers, and they would look at our numbers and they would be very happy with the output. And
Yeah.
all of that only was achieved because everybody came together and
Right.
everybody understood that the goal had to be achieved.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of your viewers will have managers, 'di ba? Above them, managing them. And of course, marami tayong nadidinig na stories today na disgruntled na hindi ako masaya sa manager ko.
I think it has to be a two-way street, right? You have to trust your managers, but you have to also talk to your managers. If things
Yes.
if things aren't well, if things aren't working for you, if they aren't able to maximize your potential, you
Right.
have to be able to say that to them.
Of
Because
course. Agree.
sometimes you may not be the right fit for what you're doing.
Right.
At the end of the day, I always believe you have a choice. You
Mm-mm.
always have a choice. You either try to see how you can improve that relationship with your manager so that you can be the kind of employee, the kind of team member she needs or he needs to make sure that the team is strong, because you're only
Yeah.
as strong as your weakest team member, right?
Yes, of course.
And then, so once you have that conversation going, see how you can adjust. Because once you start adjusting, then, things are going to be better for you. But the other side of the story is also, if you cannot do what is being asked of you, then maybe it's time to go. And you have to be able
Mm.
to also tell your manager that, right? Because
Mm.
you don't want to blindside your manager out of respect. If you are
Of
thinking
course.
something else, have the decency to tell your manager that, this is not working for me anymore, but I can even help you find a replacement for me. I can help train that replacement. I can help you see how we can make the transition as smooth as possible. I think
Yeah.
that's the kind of mature conversation that you can have if things aren't
Mm-mm.
working very well for you. But before you get to that point, I think you should try to see how you can actually work together better.
Pero discuss also the other side of that coin. How does the manager give advice to the manager on how to communicate his or her vision to the team?
Yeah. Well, when it comes to making sure that your vision is clear, and this one is already part of leadership, right? Managing is your day to day. Managing is looking if people are, following the rules, coming together as a team, etc., etc. But when it comes to looking at the vision, what you want to do is paint a clear picture. And
Yes.
when I say that, I mean through your words, no? Make sure that they know that this is your ideal scenario. That ideal scenario is your vision. In 3 years' time, this is where we need to be at. This is how I
Mm.
imagine it to be. This is how I imagine your place in this new situation, in this better environment that we have as a team, right? But again, back to communication, right? It has to be said and it has to be reminded, right? But
Agree.
funny that you ask that, because I think one of the issues is that when you project that vision and you feel that your team understands it, the gap is often you're not putting as much emphasis in how they're going to fit into the vision. It,
Right.
right? In other words, okay, I'm an employee, that's your vision for the company, but where do I fit in? How is that
Mm,
part of my story? How is that going to benefit me, in other words? Right?
mm.
Is my place in the sun, in your magnificent future, in your
Yeah.
magnificent vision? So
So agree na dapat talaga manager should be able to communicate well, 'di
yeah,
ba?
yeah,
Yeah. You have to communicate your vision, why you have this vision, why this is your goal, 'di
yeah.
ba? Kasi pagka hindi mo shinare yan properly with your team, hindi your team will your team will reject it eh. Or mahihirapan silang mag-adjust or mag-adjust to your vision, 'di ba?
Because there's no understanding, no?
Yeah.
Parang you invited people to a very wonderful meal, but you're only showing them the appetizer. It's
Oo.
very, samantalang it's a 12-course meal, and down the road it's really everyone's going to benefit.
Right. Agree, agree. Talagang communication plays a big part in our lives, ano?
So big.
Oo.
Big, even in our relationship. Right?
Oo. Well, good thing you mentioned that. So how big a factor did your spouse play in this career of yours?
Well, I am so blessed. I think we have to really acknowledge that. And yeah, I mean, the support and the understanding. You used to bring me to work every day. You would pick me up from work every day. We used to ride your motorcycle to get to work, your YZF that was really so loud, but it was still fun. We went to Singapore, and one of the things that Tolark said was, go because of this, and this, but also only if Toby is willing to go with you. I think that was a really blessing for a real blessing for us, lover, that we had Tolark to really
Yes.
that you being together is super important,
Right.
whether you're in the Philippines or in Singapore. But yeah, it's so important. It's so important to have that solid relationship. Thank you for
Oo.
that, by the way.
Kasi ano talaga eh, for my part din naman, before we were married, di ba, we were partners,
Yeah.
di ba, and then we became husband and wife. So from any part, I mean, in any part of that timeline,
Yeah.
I really felt the support. Kasi ano yan eh, no matter what it was. Kasi I remember it was as trivial as what my hobby of car racing. 'Di ba? You were there, you were very supportive, 'di ba? We had fun together,
Yeah.
'di ba?
Yeah.
It's and then to my career, and then syempre it will evolve to my career choices, 'di ba? Yung support talaga is there eh. Kasi ano to eh, at the end of the day, talagang kayo lang eh. Walang walang iba eh,
Yeah.
'di ba? I mean, and then for the single people out there,
Yeah.
'di ba, who are watching, wala man kayong partner, wala man kayong spouse, there is always somebody who is your partner eh. Whether it's your best friend, your mom, your dad, your sibling, there's always somebody, and then you maintain this kind of relationship,
Yep.
'di ba? And also, I think I should mention na sometimes we feel as if yung mga spouse natin o yung partners natin are parang binabantayan tayo na parang parent
Yeah.
na or high school principal na nakahawak sa leeg mo, yun ang tingin mo na sa kanya. When in reality, hindi eh. Hindi yun eh. Kasi that is you. That is you leaning towards the negative.
Yeah.
Eh, ang positive side of that is this person cares for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
This person is taking care of you. This person is looking out for you.
I think for me the point there kasi, when you get into a relationship, you're really giving your life into this relationship. The other
Yes.
person is giving their life into this relationship. And therefore, whatever happens to the other person affects the other person.
Of course.
Just say na, whatever, bahala ka sa buhay mo and, live your life
Mm.
and do that. Because why would you commit to each other, right? If you
Yes.
really loved each other and you wanted the best for each other, like any mature relationship, you
Mm.
would take care of each other, right?
Yes. Let's move on to life part, the life part. Okay.
Okay.
Ako kasi, again, so, medyo I am of the firm belief na a big part of your life is shaped by the people that you surround yourself with. Eh.
Very much so.
Definitely, di ba?
Definitely.
Ah, hindi naman to yung birds of the same feather flock together. No, it's not that. But it's a matter of choice,
Yeah.
di ba? How do you choose people that you surround yourself with? Ano yung traits ng
Yeah.
people that we surrounded ourselves with in our 21 years of blissful, happy, thanks to me, marriage.
Well, when it comes to traits, I think honesty, right?
Mm,
Honesty, those who love the simple things. I really, it's hard for me to look at traits as the barometer. Um,
mm,
for me, it's really more about what you bring to the table, right? And what
mm,
you bring to the table is either, you know, you can share new ideas with us. You can talk to us about things that interest you, and that can
mm,
be something that we also gravitate to and we enjoy. But I think kasi the most important thing for me when it comes to looking at the people I have in my very, I think relatively small circle,
yes.
it's authenticity. It's
Mm,
really authenticity.
oh,
People, even if we have varying sides of the same story, we respect the conversation, and
right.
we support each other also, right? So
Yes.
I think that's the thing. If you find
Correct.
yourself in a company of a group that's less than ideal, then please have the courage to look for another set, to start
Yeah.
networking, to start reaching out to others, and hey, when you're not comfortable. You don't have to
Yeah.
change, right?
Huwag mong pilitin. Doon
Yeah.
nagkakaproblema eh, pag pinipilit eh.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing
'Di
is,
ba? Yung mga keeping up with the Joneses na yan, 'di ba? Yan, pinipilit kasi, 'di ba? Yung mga ganun eh. Huwag
yeah.
mong pilitin. It comes naturally talaga, no?
And a real friend won't force you. A real friend won't expect you to be whatever it is. They will only expect you to be who you are.
So final question, no? How important is it to have blind faith in God in our lives?
Yeah.
I think you should explain that part also.
Oh, that's kind of tough because that's a whole topic in itself for me.
Yes.
But I think if I had to just talk about that a little bit, faith in itself is a mystery. There is
Mm-mm.
no tangible things to faith. If you are expecting a grand life because you pray, you're very
Mm.
mistaken. Life itself
Yeah.
has its difficulties.
Of
The
course.
very definition of your existence. It's
Mm-mm.
fraught with challenges. It has all these different things that's going to crop up, you know? But what's important is that that whatever happens, and I'm feeling choked up right now, whatever happens, that you have somebody to rely on, somebody to lean on. And of course, I'm talking about your relationship with God, which you can
Mhm.
build every day through prayer. That even if you don't have a single friend, you're never alone. That
Mhm.
even if you find yourself alone, you're really never alone, right?
Yes.
So, having faith in your life is making sure that whatever happens, you're fine. Whatever happens, you are where God
You'll be
wants.
fine in his arms.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
You can lose everything today.
Mm.
And if you had
Beautiful.
and if you had that line to connect with God and say, "Okay, now God, there's nothing left. It's just you and me." Watch him. Watch him see. Watch and see how he's going to change your life, right? I mean, it's crazy, but he does it. He does it, and he does it in a way that you will never expect. That's why it's funny, because a lot of times, we plan because we're human. We need plans, we need a list, we need all these things. In my stage in my life, I now know that I do it for my own comfort, for my
Yeah.
own sanity. But I always know that throughout everything that I do, all of these plans that I have, the factor that I can't write down is what God has planned for me.
Yes.
And when I say, "Lead me, Lord," I mean, I lift all of my plans, and I lift all of my
Yeah.
wishes and all of my desires, right? But at the end of the day, whatever you want from this life that you gave me, whatever you want
Mhm.
me to do, whoever you want me to touch,
Mm.
let it happen
Right.
for your greater
Very
glory.
good. Very good. Good answer. Okay. I
Babe.
guess baka masyado nang mahaba yung interview.
Oh, tsaka pinag
Guys, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe,
ano ba yan?
yung arrow, di ba subscribe? Subscribe. For having me.
No, it was fun. It was fun. I was thinking it was getting a little bit too serious in the middle, but you did such an excellent job asking the questions. Oh my gosh.
Ay, nako. Paging Miko Alzona.
Oh,
Hashtag this.
oh my gosh. Well, I'm gonna see you in a little bit. But thanks again so much. And everybody, I hope you've taken away some good things from this interview. And thank you so much, you guys. Take care. Bye, lovers.